Hi, I'm Barry Sahajian, and this tutorial is called Applied Performance of Essential Bass Theory. As you can see is my book Essential Bass Theory, which I have done some tutorials on, but now is the time I figured to go through a section of the book which gave my students the most benefit by studying this. And what it is exploring creative aspects of minor triads, major 7 arpeggios, dominant 7th arpeggios, and minor 7th arpeggios. I have a special method where I use shapes and ideas so you can expand on these simple arpeggios to make them sound interesting and far more effective. So right now I'm going to start by going through the book page by page. When I get to a page or a section I have already covered, I will put a link up to the relevant tutorial so you can go back and check it out if you wish. Also, I have just recently completed an advanced arpeggios for minor triads, which is quite a bit above what we're doing today. Today is sort of a basic approach to get you more acquainted with some of the techniques you can use to make these simple triads and arpeggios much more interesting and functional, and to understand them better as well. Okay, here's my book. I wrote this in 1986, long time ago. Actually, in 1986, I had just gotten off the road. At that point in my life, I had been playing well over 20 years, mostly full-time, and a different time for musicians. It was. Work was abundant, amazing. Imagine that. You could work as many nights as you wanted, and musicians were actually in demand. The reason being is back then there was no CDs, there was no internet, there was no MP3s. All there was nightclubs and live bands. Basically, that's all there was. So a nightclub owner could not function or make any money if he didn't have a band. So I worked and worked and worked. I got off the road, and it was time for me. I got married, and it was time for me to do something else. I mean, I can't run around the country anymore. It's hard to do with a wife, believe me. So anyhow, I started writing books in 1982. And anyway, so this essential bass theory was kind of what I learned, a lot of the things I learned at Berkeley, and this is kind of their method. And so this will be the title page and the introduction. And right here we have tetrachords. Now tetrachords, what is a tetrachord? A major scale cut in half. And if you look at these tetrachords and you put them through the cycle of fourths or fifths, you will get, each time you go one more fourth, it will add another flat. Or if you go one more fifth, it will add an additional sharp. And it just goes one sharp, two sharps for going through the cycle of fifths, and everything is progressing in fifths as well. The new tetrachords go in fifths, and the new sharp gets added in fifths, and it does the same thing. And here's a picture right here of the tetrachord broken down, and then we go over here into F. So this is the key of F, which would be a flat key, and right here you can see that a flat is added in the key of F on the 4th degree. If you go to the next set of tetrachords up a fourth, there will be another flat added, and that flat will progress in fourths too, B flat to E flat, and so forth. And I've done a whole video on that. I've done a video on the cycle of fourths and the cycle of fifths, which will explain that in detail. And this is a little chart here that shows you how it works in flats. One flat, two flats, and it breaks it down basically. And here we go right here with your circle of fourths, so you can visually see how this is working. And now we go into sharp keys. And this would be the key of G, which has one sharp. And all the same concepts I've just discussed working with that. You're going in the circle of fifths, which means you're adding a new sharp key every time you go up the scale, every time you add a new scale a fifth away. And that's the way that works. And here is that chart I saw that gives you another visual effect on how the sharps are added, and the circle of fifths going the other way, opposite way from the fourths. Now, right here I introduce playing root and fifth. Now, root and fifth may be a simple matter to most people, and is, but there's a lot you can do with a root and fifth to make it more interesting. You know, adding different rhythms and inverting them, and I go through that over here, and I've got a video on that I'll post above. And here's adding some rhythms and another more alternate rhythms. And over here I touch on harmony. And harmony is basically every other note in a scale. That's a real basic concept of it. And that's how that works, and I explain a little on that. Here are triads built on a major scale. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and what they are, whether the major, minor, minor, major. Over here, when you extend it to a seventh chord, a major seventh on the first degree, a minor seventh on the second degree, and we go over that all the way up the scale until you've covered all the seventh chords. And it goes on and explains a little about what a progression is. Now this is the place I want to focus on. Now here we have three shapes of a major triad, and this is important. This is how you can really expand on the possibilities of using a triad, and I'll explain that. And we're going to start there here today, but I want to go through the entire book basically. So right here to the right we have 8 examples with rhythmical variations with a triad. Now what we're going to do is you try putting that triad over here and put it on one of the shapes, and it opens up more possibilities. And another thing it does is gives you the economy of motion you need. Some of these lines are easier to play with this shape than they are with this shape. It's important to know that. And some of the in this shape, maybe you can go further up the neck and extend on the line, and that's how that works. So next we go into the minor triads. Same thing, 3 shapes, 8 examples with rhythmical variations, and you try them out on each of these shapes. You try this line on that shape, and you find out, well, this line, it works, it's much easier to play. I get better economy of motion, and I can extend it with a pentatonic line or something like that. And this is why it's important to understand different positions that you can play these things in. Okay, we're on to the dominant seventh. Same idea, except, dominant seventh has 4 notes in the arpeggio. And so it gets a little more interesting, more possibilities, because there's an extra note. We have 3 shapes, and we have 8 examples with rhythmical variations. Now we're on to the minor seventh, and same thing again. 3 shapes, 8 examples with rhythmical variations, and we keep going here. Next and last is the major seventh. And once again, 3 shapes, 8 examples. You try them out, you experiment. Now we go into the blues, and here's a basic progression. You can try these things on. And another rock-type blues. Lastly, just a couple of 1-6-2-5 and 1-4 progressions, which I can explain at a later time. That about sums up the book. Please subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of all the videos yet to come, in particular this new series of the Applied Theory. Like, comment, and I hope to see you again. Thank you for stopping by.